Is it up yet?
There you are.
There we are.
There you are.
Okay, we'll try it again. Good early afternoon. Here from Orange Beach, Alabama. We're at Wisdom Harbor Studios live from the wharf. It's raining here. I mean, really bad rain and just like tropical blah, blah, blah. So it's a lot of lightning. And what you just experienced right there is kind of what we have been experiencing all morning. And this is the last day that Gabe Wicks is in the studio with us, and so we have to get this done. And so we won't take up too much of your time today. We're already behind, but we have a chapter here to read for you. Hey, Kathy from California. I know SB is in the back, and she's talking to some people. And so we're gonna get to this very quickly. If you would, if you haven't pressed your notification button so that you're notified when we're on there, please do that. And please go ahead and share this, and just know that if you're just kind of waiting to see if you like it, whether you don't know if you're going to share it or not, you can still share it after you watch it. You can watch it and go, yeah, that was okay, so I'll share. Anytime you want to share, we'd be happy for you to share. Hey to all the Twitter guys out there, led by the Twitter king, my next door neighbor, Brian Backen. So thank you for Twitter guys being there, and also you people on Instagram. We're glad you're here. I hope it's not raining where you are. If you're on YouTube, please press that subscribe button, okay? Hey, Tam from Virginia. And there's somebody from Alex City. I had another friend from Alex City. And there's California. And are you ready? We're going to go ahead and get started. Now, remember, this is from the new Noticer book that comes out September 8th. This is the third in that Noticer series, and the book is called Just Jones. Sometimes the thing seems impossible until it is actually done. And I'm very excited about this. But when we do this, when we've come in, this is the last day we'll do this, but when we have come in and read just wherever we are in the book, as we're recording this audio for Audible and all the CDs and the audio version of this book, as we do this, we're just kind of pulling in right where we ever happen to hit at 12:15 Central Time, and reading that to you. So it might be out of context a little bit, but we hope you get a taste for it. I think you heard maybe a little bit yesterday. Some of the major characters besides Jones. There is the 13-year-old kid, Oliver Sutherland, he's a little bit of a troublemaker, but nobody catches him at stuff. So everybody likes him. And it's just very mischievous, okay? And then there is Keely Higgins, who is the young woman working in the Five and Dime store that Jones owns now. Jones owns a Five and Dime, which is just blowing me away. And then there's also Blair Houston Monroe, who is the woman that nobody likes in town. I mean, it's just nobody likes her. Okay, and at this point, this part I'm about to read, I've been in and out of town. And so now I've just come back into town, and I'm stopping, and I'm running into a couple of guys that are telling me about some stuff that's happening. And in the Five and Dime, Jones has this table now that everybody's calling the peace table. And they're sitting around and having coffee at it every morning and having discussions. And so here's what's going on. Ready? And we'll get going. You guys ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go. Chapter 18. It was a conversation with a couple of friends that clued me into the fact that there was a new piece of furniture in the Five and Dime. Bigger news, however, was dominating the discussion as I arrived. I'd just come from the airport after having been out of town for almost 2 weeks. Polly had asked me to stop by Publix before I got to the house, and as I walked in, Pastor Burke Rourke was standing with Benny, the store manager, outside his office. They waved me over. Both seemed amused, and as we shook hands, Benny asked, "Have you formed an opinion?" "Of course," I said, in a very confident voice. Both men leaned in. "Tell us," the pastor said. I looked both ways and leaned toward them. Banana pudding. Like twins from a bad sitcom, both guys frowned and straightened at exactly the same time. Then, in a unison so perfect it was as if they'd rehearsed, they said, "What?" "Banana pudding," I nodded. "In my opinion, the greatest dessert ever invented." "What are you talking about?" Benny said. "What are you talking about?" I countered. As they looked at each other and back to me, I spread my hands apart. "Fellas, you asked if I'd formed an opinion, and the answer is yes. Obviously, at this point in my life, I have formed many. However, you didn't ask for my opinion on any specific topic. Therefore, I chose one of my favorites." Benny turned to Burke as if I were not there and said, "Tourists know he lives in Orange Beach. Sometimes they come in here and ask about him. I'm always nice. I never tell anyone how strange he is." "Thank you," I said with a smirk. "We're asking about the star," Burke informed me, shaking his head wearily. "I just came from the airport," I replied. "I have no idea what you guys are talking about." "Oh," they laughed and began talking at once, stopped and started in again before Benny held out a hand to silence Burke and took up the narrative. "Someone stole the Star of Texas from Blair Houston Monroe's front lawn last night." "What?" I croaked. That shut me up for a minute. "Yeah, everybody's talking about it," the pastor said. "There's nothing left but a big hole in the ground and a pile of sandy dirt." "That star was huge," I said. "At least 3.5 feet high, maybe 4 with that concrete base. And it was right in the middle of that massive lawn." Benny laughed. "It was the only thing on that massive lawn." "Blair Houston is so mad," Burke said. "I drove by her place this morning when I heard about it, and she was screaming at the police officers." Benny laughed again. "Man, don't you know they wanted to spray her down with that pepper stuff?" I was flabbergasted. Wait, that was a solid iron star, mounted on a concrete slab, secured by anchored steel cables in the ground. How would somebody have gotten it on a trailer? Both men grinned. "They didn't," Burke said, and I frowned. "He's right," Benny agreed. "Nobody used a trailer or a truck." "How do you know?" I asked. Benny narrowed his eyes and pointed at me. "No tire tracks." He paused, sinking that in. "All that pretty grass, that wide expanse of lawn. As heavy as that star was, there's not a single track in that yard." "Yeah, anything stout enough to haul that thing out would have left tracks," I noted. "But how would anyone get it out of there without leaving tracks?" They paused only a beat before again answering in unison, "Helicopter." Closing one eye, I made a sound. I was doubtful. It would have taken a Chinook, I said, referencing the huge tandem. Let me do that again, Matt. Closing one eye, I made a sound. I was doubtful. It would have taken a Chinook, I said, referencing the huge tandem rotor aircraft. Gotta do it again. Ready? Closing one eye, I made a sound. I was doubtful. It would have taken a Chinook, I said, referencing the huge tandem rotor aircraft familiar to those of us who live near military bases. And if a helicopter had lifted it out of the ground, don't you think the noise and commotion would have attracted some attention? Both men appeared to be disappointed. Yeah, they agreed, and Benny added, dang it. The subject changed briefly when I glanced at my watch. I still had my shopping to do before I could head home. Coffee at the peace table in the morning? The pastor said to us. 7:30, Benny nodded. I'll be there. When they looked my way, I opened my eyes wide and, with a leading tone in my voice, said, Banana pudding? They stared. Guys, once again, I have no idea what you're talking about. They laughed and apologized, at which point Benny deferred to the pastor, who explained, several of us started having coffee with Jones every morning a couple of weeks ago. At first it was just Keeley, Oliver on Saturdays, Jones, and me. I've been every morning since, except Sunday, of course. Of course, I said, and waited for more. Benny goes too, the pastor said, and looked at our friend, who nodded enthusiastically. We just drink coffee and talk for an hour or so. There's a bunch of us now. I smiled, never surprised that people sought the old man for conversation. How many's a bunch? I asked. 8 or 9. Really? Wow. Where does everyone sit? Or do you just meet outside? Burke looked at me as if I were asking a question to which the answer should be obvious. We just sit around the table. As an afterthought, he added, You want to come tomorrow? Absolutely, I said, if it's okay. They assured me that it would be. It did not occur to me then that I had moved right past the fact that my old friend had gotten a table. After all, that didn't seem too out of the ordinary. I was trying to get my head around exactly where in that packed jumble of a store he might have jammed one, much less a table big enough for a bunch of folks to sit around. I remembered something and turned to Benny. A minute ago you said coffee at the peace table. Why do you call it that? Both men grinned, but this time Benny took the lead. Simple enough, really, he said. Yesterday morning, when Jones kicked Blair Houston Monroe out of our group, I held up my hands to stop the conversation. Wait, I said. Blair Houston Monroe was part of your group? And Jones kicked her out? He kicked her out of the whole store, Pastor Rourke said. Well, yeah, he did, Benny conceded. But within 15 minutes of Monroe being gone, somebody said something about how peaceful it was. I forget how the conversation went after that, but Jack Bailey was the first to call it the peace potato. All right. Last sentence again, Matt. I forget how the conversation went after that, but Jack Bailey was the first to call it the peace table. At 6:30 the next morning, I left the house. I wanted to be early and see Jones alone before the others arrived. I had this one day at home before being gone again for 3 weeks with my family. I was looking forward to this morning and my first coffee conversation at the peace table. In addition, I was fully briefed on all things Blair Houston, or as even my boys were now calling the woman, Psycho Monroe. As I drove from my home to the wharf, I listened to Rick and Bubba on the radio and realized that Blair Houston's beloved Star of Texas having been stolen was still news from Nashville to the Gulf Coast and from Tallahassee to New Orleans, north to south, east to west. Blair Houston was obviously making a big deal out of it being gone, but frankly, I didn't even care. Furthermore, while I am aware that the lack of sympathy to which I just admitted might be seen as a flaw in my own character, I had a tough time feeling sorry for her. Here, I thought, is a mean woman with $1 jillion. She lost a piece of scrap iron that didn't amount to much more than a big Christmas decoration anyway. It was not, I concluded, a sign of the apocalypse. Far more interesting to me, I must admit, was Blair Houston Monroe's public ejection from Jones 5 and Time. For the record, here's what happened. That's kind of cruel, isn't it? But that's where that part ended. How and why she got ejected from Jones 5 and Dime was one of my favorite parts. It's one of my favorite parts in the book. I don't know why I enjoyed so much having this old woman kicked out because of what she did, and I'm not even going to tell you what she did, and I'm not going to tell you what she said on her way out, but I'm having a good time doing this. I'm having a good time. I always, by the time you write it and go through all the stuff, by the time you get through all that, time passes and then it gets closer to the release of the book, and now it's time to do the audio. And so there's been enough time passed that I actually kind of enjoy reading it again, because after you write something like that, you kind of go, I don't know if this is any good or not. And I'm so sick of it, I can't read it again. But now some time has passed, and it has been a lot of fun. So, you guys, I know this is a short Blue Plate special today. I really appreciate you joining. And there should be a link where you can pre-order the book if you'd like to. I'd sure love you to. And I'm just really excited about this. Gabe Wicks from HarperCollins came in, and he is the audio, he's head of the audio thing. I mean, literally produces 400 to 500 audiobooks a year. And so when he comes in to do this, he does not read it beforehand because he's wanting to listen and follow along and make sure he catches words that I don't catch or something. And so he came in. He has a specific favorite of the books I've done, and he said, "Yeah, I don't, you just." But I think I'm pulling him over to this side in this book. But we're going to go ahead and finish it this afternoon. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being with me. And if you wouldn't mind spreading the word about Just Jones, I think it's going to help a lot of people. I think it's going to entertain a lot of people. I think you're going to laugh a lot at this one. And I have certainly learned a lot writing it. So I hope that it helps you too. Thank you, guys. Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you next week sometime.